Samira, I think we all owe you a very big thank you. You have led today. It's been a complex day. There's been an awful lot going on, but you have brought it to life for us. And to use a sort of maritime term, you've navigated seamlessly through a complex program. So if those of us who are here, and perhaps if the 800 clap very loudly, we can... Right, we're approaching the end of day one. I hope you will agree today has been quite remarkable. I mean, we've had huge insight, fantastic discussions. And as Mark Sedwell said at the opening today, this is also about ideas. And there have been many ideas, and hopefully we have captured them. This is the third Atlantic Future Forum. Some of you were with us, I think, 2 years ago. It was October 2 years ago, when this aircraft carrier came into New York Harbor for the very first time on her first visit to the United States. And while the ship was in New York, we thought we needed to do something. We needed to do something special and really to use that moment. And the Atlantic Future Forum was born at the end of 2018. I have a confession. It was something of an experiment. We weren't quite sure what we were creating. But the result was significant. And there was, I think, an appreciation from all of the stakeholders that this was something of value. And it was of value because not only coming together in a very unique, a totally unique environment, but the ability over a day or 2 days to bring people from both the public and private sector, people at the heart of government, people leading our military. That is a very special thing. And so we have, in a way, now cornered the market, if you like. It's probably monopolistic, of holding summits on British aircraft carriers. I don't think it's ever been done before. But we're going to continue to do that. And at the heart of that is this collaboration between the public and the private sector elements. And I do owe and want to thank in particular the chief executives, the presidents, the chairmen of the companies who have supported us as strategic partners, both back in 2018, importantly here in 2020, and hopefully into the future. Finally, I can see Mark Sedwell sitting in the front row. Mark, as everybody knows, has become, the Prime Minister asked him to chair the Atlantic Future Forum. And I don't know whether he needed much persuading, but we were anxious for the result of that decision. And thankfully, he said yes. And under Mark's leadership this year and going forward, I think the Atlantic Future Forum is going to be something to watch, and we're excited about what we're going to do in the future. Mark, thank you for your counsel and leadership. It's now my pleasure to introduce our final closing speaker today, a special speaker, and that is the Chief of the Air Staff. We've heard a lot today about the UK-US relationship and how we are deepening and seeking to nurture that. But there is another relationship of equal strategic value in evidence here today, and that is the one between the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy. And that has really come together in what we see and experience, and if you've seen it on the virtual tours, but you've had a chance to go around and see what this ship can do as part of the new UK Carrier Strike Group. And a lot of that success has been forged and developed by the inspirational leadership of the Chief of the Air Staff working with naval colleagues. So we're particularly honoured to welcome him to the Atlantic Future Forum today. He was appointed Chief of the Air Staff in July last year. He is a former frontline Tornado pilot and was knighted by the Queen only this month. So Air Chief Marshal Sir Mike Wigston, the AFF stage is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. My Lord, distinguished guests, it's an enormous pleasure to be here today, and I think it feels very special to be here in person on HMS Queen Elizabeth, given the context of 2020. It's been a day of rich discussion and stimulating debate, and I'm privileged to have been asked to help close down today's programme. It took the Royal Navy 372 years to realise it needed an independent Royal Air Force operating alongside it. So I suppose I should be grateful that I've been given this platform at only the third Atlantic Future Forum. But I think that says much more about the level of integration demanded by today's operating environment than it does about the foresight of our predecessors at the beginning of the 20th century. And foresight is needed as much today as ever. We started the day with a fascinating discussion about the world we face and the future of global competition in a disrupted world. We would, I think, all recognise an increasingly unstable world of persistent challenge and competition, whether that's Chinese expansionism or Russian adventurism in Eastern Europe, messing with our own democratic processes, or committing murder on the streets of the United Kingdom. The UK Chief of Defence Staff, General Sir Nick Carter, has described our adversaries and rivals engaged in a continuous struggle, a strategy of political warfare involving all of the instruments of statecraft, ranging from what we call peace to nuclear war. Across all of our respective areas, the strategic context is increasingly complex and dynamic, and the pace of change is extraordinary, supercharged by leaps in digital and quantum technology. If we fail to respond, and respond at pace, we will cede the advantage to our adversaries. My good friend, General C.Q. Brown, the US Air Force Chief of Staff, is very clear about that when he challenges the USAF to accelerate change or lose. Because he says if we don't change, if we fail to adapt, we risk losing the certainty with which we have defended our national interests for decades. And as we heard from Lord Sedwell at the beginning of the day, and as the very first panel discussion made very clear, this era of persistent challenge and competition with growing geopolitical tensions and mounting nationalism will require us all to break out of our silos and work ever more closely with like-minded international allies and strategic partners, including industry and academia, to deepen and amplify our collective security and prosperity. To quote CQ again, our dominance is not assured. Only through collaboration within and throughout will we succeed. Here in the UK, the integrated review will define our government's ambition in the world and the long-term strategic aims for our national security and foreign policy. We've made great progress, but nobody should underestimate the challenges of doing this whilst we're facing the unprecedented health and economic challenges of this unrelenting global pandemic. But we have made progress, and the integrated review, I'm convinced, will set out the way in which the UK will be a problem-solving and burden-sharing nation that is allied and integrated by design. The UK MOD's new integrated operating concept lays out how we will achieve that, with a focus on competition for strategic advantage, recognising and investing in our strengths, the quality of our people, integration with allies and partners, relentless innovation, and the values and standards that bind us together. As an Air and Space Chief, I'm acutely conscious of the future operating threats too. We can no longer assume unchallenged access to air and space as we've enjoyed for the last 3 decades, nor can we ignore the threat of air, ballistic and cruise missile attack at home, across NATO or overseas, or of what we heard in the sobering discussion on hypersonics. But our relentless pursuit of technological innovation like hypersonics is an enormous opportunity too. As a military leader, I need to offer our decision makers choice and ultimately the ability to fight and win when deterrence and political discourse has run its course. That requires a Royal Air Force that is radically innovative, able and willing to pioneer new technologies, to remain credible and relevant, ready to understand, decide and then act faster with even greater precision, lethality, and in more places around the world than we do today simultaneously. And fundamental to that is full integration across all warfighting domains: land, sea, air, cyber, and space. Our people, aircraft, spacecraft systems must be integrated in a way that enables data from every sensor on any platform to be processed in real time into useful information, enabling better decisions than our adversaries and executed at the speed of light. We're pioneering that change as I speak, mirroring the US Joint All-Domain Command and Control, JADC2 program. And as we also heard from Cathy Warden, the technology is there now to build that all-domain, integrated, international battlespace network that we've been talking about for many years, but we just need to get on with it, and quickly. I speak about space as a warfighting domain, but the behaviours of countries like Russia and China in space should give us all cause for concern. The UK Ministry of Defence, UK Strategic Command and the Royal Air Force are rapidly expanding the UK's space domain awareness so we can better protect and defend our shared interests. We're actively considering what a future National Space Operations Centre could look like, partnering with the UK Space Agency to provide a blueprint for a collaborative civ-mil organisation. And this builds on last year's announcement that the UK has become the first formal partner in the US-led Operation Olympic Defender, a multinational military effort to deter hostile actors in space, and reinforcing our position as a pivotal ally in the seven-nation Combined Space Operations Initiative. The ambition from our political leaders is clear. The space sector is important to the nation, and we want to be at the forefront of the modern explosion in space interest. It can deliver for the armed forces, it can inspire the nation, and it can drive innovation and technology that until only recently was the stuff of dreams. We heard the fascinating discussion, in fact it was a highlight of the afternoon, the fascinating discussion between Secretary Gertz and the First Sea Lord, he asked me to say that, talking about interchangeability. So I could not let this opportunity pass without making the point that this year the Royal Air Force became a maritime air force once again, alongside our world-class Royal Navy. We declared the Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft operational following a remarkably successful programme that's taken less than 5 years from decision to fielding an operational squadron. But we achieved that that remarkable timeline in part by becoming an interchangeable part of the US Navy P-8 force. And as you've already heard, later this year we will declare we're ready to conduct lightning operations from HMS Queen Elizabeth, following an ambitious workup programme, including with our US Marine Corps partners, that has exceeded all expectations. These are critical milestones, not only in the development of UK carrier strike, but also as a template for future interoperability and interchangeability with our closest international partner. And looking further into the future, we're working alongside the Royal Navy to develop and exploit swarming drones in the maritime environment. And we're determined to innovate relentlessly at the cutting edge of technologies as we field these incredible 21st century operating platforms. It will require us to take risks and accept some things just won't work out, but that is what relentless technological innovation requires. And when it comes to technological innovation, the drive to net zero carbon should be a priority for all of us. I thought the panel discussion and the fireside chat by Bernard Looney was excellent food for thought. Nor is the irony lost on me that we had the CEO of BP delivering that talk, or even that I, who spent the first half of my career burning a small car's weight in aviation fuel just to get airborne, should be talking so emphatically about the strategic priority of net zero carbon. But energy security and our planet demand it, our political leadership demands it, and our public increasingly demands it. And as Chief of the Air Staff, I would observe that this is a challenge that really interests and excites our new generation of young soldiers, sailors and aviators in a way that for our generation, if I may, it simply did not. So the strategic imperative is very clear to me, which is why I've set my team the challenge of making our Royal Air Force bases net zero by 2040. why we're speaking to our industry suppliers about alternative aviation fuels and propulsion. And it's why I've initiated joining the UK government's Jet Zero Council alongside ministers, officials and industry partners to drive ambitious delivery of new technologies and innovative ways to cut aviation emissions. This year is the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Britain, so you are going to have to indulge me with a few moments dwelling in the past. But as we talk of technological innovation, I want to use a bit of history to highlight why the right technology in isolation is not enough. It's what you do with it that matters. In 1940, the Royal Air Force fielded a truly groundbreaking new technology, radar. But the Germans had it too. In working out how to employ this novel capability, the Royal Air Force had two options. Focus on radar's primary function, to detect enemy forces beyond visual range, or consider why radar matters and how it might dovetail into a vision of a broader, integrated detection, command and control system. The decision to think through the why and not just the what was decisive. In contrast, the Germans' early use of their actually technologically very high quality advanced radars was relatively inept because the wider conceptual thought as to why radar was significant was missing. They opted for form before function, and the rest is history. The technology alone was not enough. It's what the culture of your organization allows you to do with it that really makes the difference. And that, if I may, is the point that Secretary Gertz and the First Sea Lord brought out. And I would want to lodge that as well this afternoon, because collectively, we could have the greatest technological investment and innovation in the world, and the greatest partnerships. But if we don't have the right people and organizations with the innovative, disruptive mindset and culture to imagine the changes we need to make and then make them happen quickly, we will not maintain that decisive edge we know we need for the future. So to conclude, there are many memorable moments as Chief of the world's first independent Air Force, and today it's been the opportunity to listen and contribute to such a fascinating and expansive series of conversations with everybody that's taken part. This forum is all about the future. We have focused on setting the conditions to enable the next generation. But it's been clear from each of the panels that we must do things differently now. And we have to act more quickly to maintain our competitive edge in an increasingly unstable world of persistent challenge and competition. But for me, there is another more profound and enduring lesson from today's conversation. And that is, together, integrated, partnered, the whole is very much greater than the sum of the parts. And I think that's a very good place for day one of the 2020 Atlantic Future Forum to draw to a close. Thank you.
Mike, thank you very, very much. I would shake his hand as I came on, but someone would photograph him. We've both been in huge amounts of trouble. A great address on which to finish, and I particularly enjoyed the resonance with the Battle of Britain. That was a story I didn't know, and it's great. I know Tony would agree to have you here as Chief of the Air Staff, showing the integration of capability and of doctrine and of cultures across the services between, in this case, the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force. And the leadership the two of you have shown on that has been absolutely outstanding, and I think the country's better for it, so thank you. And I know, Tony, you would agree it's great to have Mike here and addressing it, so thank you very much. A really good first day. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Congratulations to those who made the technology work, and to Samira, thank you for so expertly managing to juggle between the people participating remotely and those on the stage. We've got another fantastic day ahead tomorrow. The Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, will be with us, fresh from doing a morning media round, I believe. So when he comes in looking a little windswept, it could just be because he's come onto the carrier. It could just be because he's been with the media. And we've got a series of other great speakers and panels for tomorrow, and Samira is going to be taking us through that as well. So thanks all for a great first day, for your participation. Thanks again, Steve and Watson, to you and the AFF team. for putting this event together. And with that, I'd like to invite the captain of HMS Queen Elizabeth to join me on the stage for the closing ceremony.